Hello, everyone. I'm here with one of my favorite people on the planet, Dan Brandt of Billiards by Brant. How long has Billiards by Brant been?
Oh my goodness.
Dan?
I've been in the billiard business for, oh my God, since 1964. So that puts it right at 60 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so, and we have two entities, Billiards by Brant, which is a production end, and then we have Brant Design, which is a custom, one of a kind, make it for you type of design firm.
Which is what I love. So I don't even remember how I stumbled into your place and found you, but we talked on the phone.
Right.
We talked about what I wanted. I think I had, was it steel or aluminum? What
Yes.
did you do? And wood. You
Yes.
did walnut with it.
Well, we did walnut, we did steel, we also did I think it was a little bit of leather as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, Robyn, you basically said, look, these are the materials that we want to use, and this is what the client's decor looks like, and this is a general idea of where I would like to be able to take the client in their design choices.
Right.
And then at that point, you said, Dan,
Make it beautiful.
make it happen.
Yeah, make it beautiful.
And so at that point, you renderings, and I think at one point you had me meet the client, I believe.
Yes, yes.
And
He flew down to Miami.
Right.
And he was sort of like nearsayer, and like, I'm going to be there working and I'll go. So I made 5 appointments for him that day at each showroom, and each one cost more than the next. And it was the really good stuff. I was sourcing like agate, stone top, beautiful pieces of art.
Right.
This table, everything was really high end and beautiful and custom made. And I wanted to get him there. And he was like, I don't know, because he was a numbers fellow. He bought all of it. He blew the budget way beyond what I could have done. And I think when he met you, especially your knowledge really pulled him in, and he got to be part of the process from picking the felt color to everything.
Well, one of the things that I learned a long time ago is the client already knows what they want.
They do.
They already have a good idea, not only what they want, but if they could, they would take and design it to the last detail.
Oh, yeah.
But many times they do not have the ability to be able to draw or to be able. So, what you do is you open up the world to them, and then you sit back and shut up.
It's hard to do.
And you shut up, and then they will tell exactly what they want,
Yeah.
and then they become part of the process.
Which is heaven.
Right.
They're a part of it, and you don't want to say they bought into it, but they've literally bought into it because they're paying their good money for it. But they're part of the team at that point, and they get to see the process and
Right.
understand the process, which is hard for a lot of designers too, because I'm not an engineer. I'm not a carpenter.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story, not of your client, but of a client that I have right now. I won't give you the name, but the table that they want has a footprint that, in my opinion, is not stable. Okay.
That's a pretty good opinion.
Yeah,
They better listen. Yeah.
So it's not stable. And then, so be able to prove the point, I 3D printed their table for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the office and I said, this is a table that you're asking for. Now, I understand you have the drawings, but this is a table. And I put my finger on the side of it, and it flipped over. And I put it on the other side, and it flipped over. I says, now we have to be able to talk about how we're going to bolt it to the floor.
Which they didn't want to do.
Which many times they don't want to do. I had another situation once where a person wanted to put a table on, on a bolt, on a ship. And again, the issue was bolting it down because of the waves. Mm-hmm. So many times engineering occurs before design. And I know that sounds like a heretic.
No.
But it has to work first.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, and if it doesn't take and meet engineering standards, I really don't want to be able to have my name, your name, or even the client's name, because at some point, if a problem occurs, then you're trying to be able to solve a problem.
It belongs to all of us. Yeah.
So rather than to be able to say, now this is going to be, nothing can be made bomb-proof, but as close to bomb-proof as you can to be able to make it, and then all of a sudden, oh, we're part of the team. And you may ruffle some feathers, but on the other hand, it is when people say, and I have a knack of the first words that come out of my work is, yes, we can do it. Now let's figure out how it's going to be done.
Exactly.
And we're going to say, now, if we have this option, this option, this option, this option. I was just commenting earlier today is I go to academic journals and we do a lot of 3D printing. And there's a journal that is put out and it was describing organic materials that MIT is experimenting with that are organic plant-based materials that are as strong as iron to do 3D printing. So again, you take and find what a person wants, what they need, and then apply engineering that is already in place, perhaps in this the space program, or perhaps in the military, or perhaps in in engineering to what we do.
Right.
Because a lot of times people will take and say, "We're just going to do the same old, same old." No, most of the things that we do are
you're good.
Most of the things that we do are very unique. This table here, we won the Custer Award for Workmanship for 2023. And it is a table that only 10 of the slats are actually touching the ground. Everything else is free floating. And the parametric, nobody else does something like this. And the customer had a lot of parametrics in their seating, what have you. And I says, why don't we take and do that design that you're trying to be able to do and expand it throughout the rest of the, and they says, fantastic. You can do that.
Design.
And this is, of course, we can do it because it is already being done in other venues.
Yeah.
So
you did the same thing with me. I mean, I told you where the table was going, and I think I warned you. I said, look, the house is going to be opened up. The air down there, it was in St. Kitts, and the air is extremely salty, like salty to the point where you think a cloud is a rain cloud. It's just salt in the air. It's not even moisture, it's just salt. So it's corrosive and it's rough, and this beautiful walnut metal table is going to be eaten alive.
Well, but there's no reason why something can't be done.
Yeah.
The stainless has to be a certain grade stainless.
Yeah.
It has to be marine grade stainless as compared to furniture grade stainless. So being in Miami, we know marine grade.
That's why I went to Miami. That's why I went, thank goodness. And I had a driver. Hey, Sammy. And the driver took me to your place, which has been there forever and ever.
Right.
And he was kind of like, are you sure? Because, he's used to big fancy showrooms and all this. And Dan is Dan. Dan is not fancy. And so I got out and I go in and I'm walking around kind of quiet by myself. All of a sudden, Dan pops up and he goes, Robyn? And I said, yeah. And he said, Dan. And about that time, my driver walks in, all inconspicuous, like, I'm just looking, because he was really worried that I was in the right place. But there were so many beautiful tables in there. I mean, I could have just looked for days and days.
Well, someone told me once, you must be an artist, Dan, because you dress so poorly. And I was in a $3.6 billion resort in Vegas recently, and I'm dressed as I'm dressed now, which is a J. Crew shirt.
Always.
I had my black jeans on and my Birkenstocks, and they said, okay, the shirt's okay, jeans we're not real happy about, but the Birkenstocks, I says, look, if there's a problem with my Birkenstocks, I can always go ahead and I can go buy some shoes. But this is what I brought from Miami, and these are my lucky Birkenstocks. And I was just in a
table together. You better let me wait.
I was just in a $25 million home in Miami with these Birkenstocks. Notice that customer said that he thought it was pretty cool for me to be able to work. So they just said, "Oh, yeah, just go anybody see what you're doing."
I am what I am.
So,
that's right.
But it's you're there. It's not you that you're selling. It is not, it is, you listen to the customer. What does the customer want? What does the customer need? What is their dream? And people have called me Santa Claus. And and we're not selling a product. We're selling an idea. We're selling a dream. We're selling a experience. And when the kids are playing and you're able to go ahead and see the smiles on their faces, I donated a table to a school for Down syndrome kids once, and I got all kinds of grief. They says they're never going to be good pool players. I says that's not the point.
Not the point.
The point is to be able to take and have the camaraderie of all the people and seeing when one ball happens to go in the pocket, everybody says you great.
Happy, yeah.
You have a hand-eye coordination to be able to try to hold the cue. You have the to learn some geometry about hitting one rail and going into the other, and to be able to take and just to have those skills being taught with a prop of a pool table. The issue was not the pool table. The issue was, what is it teaching? How is it going to be used?
Yeah, manners, take a turn, cheer someone else on. Yeah, learn from somebody else's mistakes.
So we're in the entertainment business. We're not in billiards. I mean, I had a customer. I made a wonderful table. A very expensive table. And they says, if you can do that, can you do a sculpture? And I scratched my head for a moment. I says, what'd you have in mind? And they says, well, we'd like to have maybe a lady's hand holding butterflies. I says, how big? And they said, well, how about, 8 by 10 feet, bolt to the ground? And I says, well, sure. So we went to our 3D printing people in Hastings, UK, and had it 3D printed, and then had the butterflies made of aluminum that actually flapped, and we had it through sublimation, so where heat, very high heat, right before burning, transfers the color to the aluminum permanently. So we have this beautiful sculpture, and I went to the people to do this printing afterwards. I said, you did a wonderful job on that. What are some of the other sculptures? They says, we've been doing things that are the size of shoe boxes, and you just had us do something that was 1,000 times bigger. But it was an idea that you believed in us.
Yeah.
So we believed in us.
Yeah. Nice.
So since we believed in us, we knew we could do it, because all we had to do is scale from, a 6-inch to an 8-foot.
Yeah.
And then, he told me afterwards, thank you very much for inviting me over to Miami, because I've never been outside 15 square miles of where I was born in Hastings, UK.
Wow.
So it is a matter of finding the great people around the world, the people who do our engineering, reverse engineering, as in Riverside, California, the people who do our IT and intellectual property, what have you, or Washington, D.C. We have tables, factories that we can use in Italy. It is a matter of finding the best people, not only including, but primarily including you, Robert, to take and give me advice, and then hopefully I can take my own advice to sit back and shut up enough that I can learn from the people that are with me. And as my father used to say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
This is true. Surround yourself with those smart people,
and then listen to them, and then ask them, can I take that idea as mine? I'll give you credit for it, but can I take that idea as mine?
Yeah.
And they usually laugh, but then
and giving credit and having that team is so inspiring.
Well,
it's so much fun to work that way, I think.
And you take a big risk. When you take and sit me down with a client, you basically take and go into the corner of the room, and you just leave me alone with a client and let me and the client take and figure out what we want to be able to do and how we want to do it and timeline that's needed. And you basically say, hey, look, they already figure out what they want.
Yeah.
Now all I have to do is I'm going to put a nice little bow after Dan leaves, and then, make a phone call and say, okay, Dan, you got 95% of what you talked about, but this 5%, this is what, what they want. So.
But, that's the beauty of our relationship, I think, is we can do this over the phone. We can do this on a Zoom call. We can do this in person. You came out to meet me at the airport, bring samples for me to put my eyes on them.
Right.
And I was I think, getting my TSA. I flew to Miami for the day and then back. And Dan said, I'll meet you at the airport. And it's just, it's just that extra mile. This man goes that extra mile all the time because I wasn't quite sure if the gray was the right gray I wanted. It could be blue gray, it needed to be brown gray, blah, 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 blah. He said, I'll bring it to you. Don't even worry. I'll just bring it to you. And it's that kind of communication and going that extra mile. And you do your research. I do my research once I meet the person. Like when I was in your building,
Right.
and I saw your work and I spoke to you, because I talked to you on the phone
Right.
before. And the phone can kind of fool you every now and then. You like somebody over the phone, you have a great conversation, then you meet them in person and you realize their voice is better than they are.
Right.
I don't know. But sometimes you're pleasantly surprised on top of that nice conversation.
Well,
and it was always that way with us. We understood that we were working for the client and we wanted the client to be happy. That was the end goal.
well, and I invited you as well. As I says, come to the shop, put on steel-toed shoes and some dirty clothes, and cut out cut the. In fact, if the client wants to do that, the client can come and cut out their own table.
Yeah.
In fact, I just did. His name is Albert. I just did that on Wednesday of last week. I invited him over to the CNC, and I think the guy was actually had tears in his eyes because it was one of those things that he's been wanting this for so long, and he designed the table on how he wanted to have it. He picked a certain veneer, which was a eucalyptus, which was a fumed eucalyptus. Now, fumed, for people who don't know what it is it's heated almost to a charcoal, so it's actually burnt. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to have this to be able to match certain things, furniture in his house. So we got the fumed eucalyptus. We were able to take and press it. We were able to take and stitch it. We were able to use raw switches, which is the actual, it's not re-engineered. It is the actual, it comes off the tree. And he was able to see all of those processes. And then when he saw that the actual being cut by the CNC, he just basically, I think that he wanted to be able to take and adopt me. He just was that excited that his table was coming to life and that he was able to take and be part of that.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, he'll tell that story over and over.
And, so we're selling not a product. We're selling an experience. Yep. We're selling the magic. Yep. And by doing that, if a person says, I want to have something upside down with only one pocket and carousel animals as legs, I says, well, when do you want it delivered? I mean, if that's what you want,
I've seen it.
If that's what you want, mm-hmm. then that's exactly what you're going to get. And then what we'll do is we'll arrange for, the photography to come out. And then we'll also arrange for the trick shot artist to come out and to entertain with you and your clients and your friends and your neighbors to take on and, to be able to do trick shots on because now the table is
time
a table.
Play.
All right. The table is a table, but it is what it represents, whatever it represents to the family, represents to you and the experience that you have.
I told you, I think years ago that I was in dance and theater and I used to do like a little traveling show. It was very hokey pokey, but we enjoyed it. And we ended up in Bedford, Virginia at the Elks National Home where the Elks go. And most of these gentlemen don't have families to retire with or whatever. So they go to this home to retire. And they have billiards tables. Mm-hmm. And I learned from Mr. Ernie. He taught me how to shoot pool. Mm-hmm. Even though I played with my brothers, they more or less ignored me. But he was the New York and New Jersey state champion from like 33, 34, 35, 36, 30, blah, 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 mm-hmm. literally stopped during the war. Mm-hmm. It stopped and then it started back. He was the state champion in New York and New Jersey for the longest time. And he had a cigar longer than him. He was a very short man and he was so cute. And he showed us trick shot after trick shot, bank shot, every little thing. He's like, no, darling, come here. You got to, do this and all this. Had the most fun learning because that was our break,
Well, it's not only fun for, a person being able to see that, but it is fun for a person to be able to show off a little bit. Yeah. You have to be able to. So he was
loving it as much as we were. Yeah, for sure.
That reminds me of what we did in it was February of last year. We went to New York, actually Brooklyn, and we put on a show at the Barclays Center, and it was called the Great Billiard Exhibition. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Oh, I can't imagine. I
So-
can't imagine. I want to talk more about that, but I want you to show us that box over there.
Right.
I just want you to look at, this is for all the designers.
So-
Look at some of what you have to choose
Okay,
from now.
so I'm going to take
Some of
away
the colors.
this is actually the green palette, but this is a palette of veneers that we can use for your table.
Oh my gosh.
And these are actually dyed.
Can you even imagine having this much selection? I don't even, this is just a green. We've got
Yeah.
pink. We're
And then-
talking about making a pink table.
Now these are some
Look at these.
these are some
Some purples, some plums. Look at this over here. Can you see this one? Oh my word.
so
These things are gorgeous.
what I like
Exotics.
what I would love to be able to take and do is said mix materials.
Look at that.
So if we decided that we wanted to be able to have, let's say, a stainless steel rail with a perhaps
Pale. Too hot. I can't even. I
So-
can't even.
so see, and this is actually one of the things that we have is that I will take and bring something like this out to the customer at home, and it is too much information because
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
is
It
that
is.
what the customer will do is that they'll say, I'm having almost a dissonance. There's too much information. I don't know how to
Mhm.
handle it.
Mhm.
So what we'll do is it says, okay, now we step back. Now that you have the world as a choice, now what I'd like you to be able to do is look at what you have as far as your decor and find out what is being made that will complement
Right.
your decor.
Right.
That's where you come in.
Right.
Mom told me a long time when I was young, is Dan, all your taste is in your mouth. Okay. True. Absolutely true. Engineering you got from your father. Do not ever give design.
You are a brilliant
so-
engineer. You are.
So what I'll do is I'll do my engineering, then I will shut up and I'm says, okay, now Robyn, this is the universe. You pick what will work.
Honestly, I don't think any designers would listen to you anyway. That's kind of the way they are.
So, but they will not. They just look, and I would say, look, if it was me, it would be, and each of our tables are like this. They're made like the tables were built in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. They're built with huge timbers, many times using reclaimed wood. And
And I can attest to that because you do historical restoration,
Right.
not only preservation, but he restores older tables as well. And you have to know what you're doing and what they were doing then to be able to do that.
And we have actually a veneer library that we have of steamed off pieces from similar tables rather than going to a veneer store now.
Wow.
We will go ahead and take the original veneers that were steamed off of the same era table to be able to do restoration.
Yeah.
So you can do repair or you can do restoration. And when people want to have something that's going to be made for them, they want to be able to have it so that it is original. And I'll use an example. It's like putting a Chevy Motormont in a 57 T-Bird. It might work, but it's not right. So you do it so that it's right.
I feel that way about a lot of design.
But but people ask me, says, when are you going to retire? And I says, I'm not. I'm 73 years old. I'm having way too much fun. I'm able to meet a whole lot of wonderful people. I'm able to spend time in uber wealthy people's homes, travel all over the world, meet them, meet their families, have dinner with them. They call me as a friend after we get done with the installation.
They do.
And then, all of a sudden, the family grows. And, as much as, I enjoy, other things, fly fishing, hiking, camping, what have you, I see, this is something that I enjoy because we're able to take something from a raw, piece of lumber to, not necessarily make it better, but to be able to take and enhance a beauty that is already there to take words out of Michelangelo, I believe it was Michelangelo, and I may be misquoting, but to take the statue was already there. His job is just to take away the raw materials and let the statue out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel with the wood and the rock and the metals and what have you.
Don't you think when you grow up in a family business too, that you may leave and go and fly free and do other things? And you went to law school,
right?
I went to dance and theater, but I came back. My parents had a furniture store, and I came back to what I knew and what I loved. And I think there's a kindred and a home kind of feel to small business and going back to how you grew up. I grew up in a store playing in mattress boxes and, just bothering everybody around me. But it felt great to me. I love being there. It's like second nature. It's kind of like this, my Crazy Wild studio. I walk in there and I say, "Hi, girl, missed you."
Well, this is actually there's a kindred to a carpenter with wood or a mason with stone. And it is the respect of the materials that were there. Mm-hmm. And your job is to be able to take and enhance the beauty that is already there. And you're not making anything. You're just enhancing the beauty, if possible, of something that is already there.
True.
And so, I don't take any credit for what I do. I just take and go ahead and I learn from, a number of people and say, if we want to be able to accomplish this, these are the options. And then I give those options to the client. The client basically says, I have no idea. You're talking about over my head. I says, okay, why don't we do this? Let's step back for a moment. Okay. Let's go ahead and say, all right, what would you ideally want in the best case scenario to be able to have this? And they would take and say 2 or 3 words. They says, I want this to be able to be something that is going to be an heirloom for my children. And I want to be able to take and go ahead and something that I can be proud of. It says, okay, at that point, they're talking about not a design. They're talking about a legacy, something that is an emotion in their heart. And at that point, you're creating, you're fulfilling a need of that emotion as compared to giving them a product.
I don't think I've ever met anyone as respectful of that as you are. You always take that into account. And, we all say, listen to the client, it's important, but you truly, truly hear what they're saying to you. I've watched you do it over and over again. And lots of times I just call you and say, okay, and I'm going to have them call you.
Right.
I let them talk to you because I feel like once they talk to Dan, they know they're in good hands because I'm just saying, oh, this is my man, Dan. He's great. You're going to love him, blah, blah, blah. I can do that all day long. But until they have that conversation with you, they don't understand the level of service and the level of craftsmanship that they are about to enter into. It's not, we're not going down to Pool Table Bob's to, order something. This is for them and only for their beautiful home and their space.
And, and people will say, you must be expensive in what we're doing. And one of the things that I think you were surprised at, Robyn, is that the cost of what, my product as compared to what you can buy, online is comparable. And the reason why we can do that is we design it, we make it, we put it in our truck and deliver it. And then I turn the last nut and bolt in it so that there is no middle person in that process with their hand out. And it very few.
I always think that I'm going to have some guys show up, and guess who shows up every single time? I want to touch on what you're doing with the MBA, giving back to Boys and Girls Club.
Right. What we did is part of our event in Brooklyn was to benefit the Boys and Girls Club, and they would design their own table. So my goal here is that to be able to take and make enough time to go back, talk to them, make their own table, and then they would see not only how it is cut out, but how it's 3D printed or what have you, and then donate that table to their clubhouse. So the goal is to give back to the community for their use, because unless you have a healthy community, you don't have a healthy business. So you need to have a healthy, and the people who are, the students and the participants in Boys and Girls Club and in many, many other organizations are going to be the people that are going to be taking care of us, in a few years. And they're going to be the ones who are going to be making decisions in a few years. And they're going to be the ones who are going to be the head of business and politics and, and healthcare, what have you, in a few years. So it is best right now to be able to take and nurture that give back, to be able to take and have that part of their psychic so that when, we need their help, they're there and say, okay, now, we receive, now it is our time to give back.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have somebody with some heart. Yeah.
So
that is such a good thought for the turn, for one good turn and another.
So, and we did something very similar with the Police Athletic League down in Miami, for North Miami. We arranged to have the Miami Heat donate a table to the Boys and Girls Club, not Boys and Girls Club, Police Athletic League. And we actually had the participants actually put the table together. And they did not know a bolt or a nut or a wrench or, a screwdriver from another, but I literally taught them, and say, okay, this is how you staple, this is how you turn this wrench, and they had ownership of the product.
Which makes them take more care of it.
And they says, not only were the Heat players playing on this table, but I personally installed this table.
Yeah.
So it is I don't sell anything. It's not, my job is not to sell. My job is to listen and to be able to create. And the person says, I want, I'm not there to be able to sell anything to anybody else.
You're not a salesman.
So I want one of those.
Yeah.
When can you deliver it?
Uh-huh.
So, and then they are part of that process.
So one of the quick questions I'm going to ask, and you can say, no, I can't talk about that, but I know it's always fun because you have so many famous people all over the world that you've done tables for, you do tables for, you continually upgrade, service, move, break down, put back together, whatever. They call you with questions or any little thing. If they're if they're doing a fundraiser and they want the trick shot guy to show up, they call you and say, hey, and so just name drop a couple of fun times for us.
Oh my goodness. I'm reluctant to be able to do this. And, I can, I've got NDAs signed by many of these people and I have, but let me tell you, Robyn, is that many of these people that, invite me into their home and sit down and I break bread with them and I sit at their dining table with them, they ask me to be able to be part of their family and be able to take in, to take and proselytize their names would be almost a sin on my part to be able to take and do that. And I would,
I think a lot of designers feel that way sometimes too.
So,
and it is hard. And if you have a non-disclosure, then you can't do it.
Right.
But I know some of the people you work with, and it is. It's pretty stellar. It's pretty stellar.
It is. If you were thinking about who's who of business, politics, medicine, what have you, and what will happen is that people will ask me to be able to literally say, not only please don't share my name, but they don't want their neighbors to have a table made by Brant, so they're being a little selfish. And trying to be able to say, I've got a Brant and you don't, so.
It happens. It happens. I've even had a few little things that, they walk in, there's something going on in the neighbor's house. Oh, what's happening? And oh my goodness, I got lit up. I wasn't even there, didn't even know. And just, it was bad. But things like that do happen because people are curious.
And they also, one thing people say, Dan, why don't you put a nameplate on your table? Is I will not put a nameplate on my table. And the reason why, this is not my table. This is not a Brant. This is your table. This is your creation. I am making this as an artist for you. So people say, well, the artist will sign their names to paintings, what have you. And I says, well, that's their choice. But my choice is to be able to make something for you, for your family, for your family generations, and the lore of what you're going to be talking about over the generations, and your family's going to be talking about over the generations, is going to be far more important than a nameplate with my name on it. So people will say, Dan, you're a horrible businessman. You don't market well. You don't. And I says, again, I'm an artist. My job is to be able to take and listen, to give you what you want, and to be able to take and create a masterpiece for you. And then to be able to do that for the next person and the next person. And, the people can't find me. I don't advertise. They find me. I don't know how they find me, but they find me. And it says, I want, and I says, all right. And, I can't tell you the person's name, but I'll give you a story. I was putting in a table, actually 2 tables. There were a 7-foot table, which was a small table, and it was a very famous clubhouse. And the general manager basically told me to be able to get the tables out of there. And I says, well, why? They says they need to have regulation tables. They need to have full size 9-foot tournament tables. And they says, and by the way, we're opening in 10 days. Can you do it?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, we can. Do I want to do it? I have to call each one of my customers and says, this is what you're requiring. So it's going to be 24/7, but yes, we can. So we did it in 9 days, and they came back to me and says, okay, now the second table we need is in 2 weeks. So you have some extra time. And so you basically say, what do you need? And then you let everybody else know what's going on. And when I told that story to the other customers who are online, they need it a whole lot faster than we do. So let them jump ahead,
Yeah.
but it's not, it's a matter of, you look at a person square in the eye and say, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. And there's only 3 rules that we live by. Is it legal? Is it ethical? And is it moral? And if you can say yes to all 3 of those, then anything goes. If you have to be able to take and go to Bolivia, because that is the only place where you can get a piece of rock that matches this and carve that piece of rock, then you go to Bolivia to be able to get that particular rock, to be able to have it carved. And it's not a matter of, well, they don't have it. Well, yeah, they do. Somebody's got it.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to be able to find it, get it, and put it in, and make it in use.
Yeah.
So
there's just not a lot of that left anymore. I mean, this is very, very special to meet with this gentleman and to have him build a table for you. It's just not done much anymore, and a lot of companies will say, oh, but we can do this and we can do that. No, they can't. No, they can't. Not in the same way.
Well, I will take and go ahead. And my father had a little speech when he was given a gold watch. And he said, he was in front of, all his peers. And he says, I see my competitors out there, in the audience, and I wish them the best of luck, just not much of it. So to my competitors, what have you, I wish them the best of luck. Just not much of it. So
that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you
for coming.
And thank you for So and all we have to be able to do is back of a napkin, a sketch in the middle of the night, and say, my God, I've seen this cloud up there. I took a picture of this cloud, whatever you can give me.
We can do it.
We can do it.
We can do it. That's for sure. And it's fun. It's a good process. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.